Hi, everyone. I'm Muneeb. I'm the founder of Stacks, which is the leading Bitcoin layer 2. And today, I'm going to talk about the future of Bitcoin. Most of you here, I'm going to assume, are familiar with Bitcoin. You're familiar with the broader industry for crypto. And in many ways, Bitcoin started it all, right? It all started with Bitcoin. It all started with Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he, she, or them might be. And Bitcoin sort of like gave birth to this entire industry. Today, my hope with this talk is to give you a little glimpse into the future of Bitcoin and to basically tell you that Bitcoin is more than just an asset. That's the first sort of like 15 years of Bitcoin where Bitcoin has been treated mostly as an asset, and I think it's actually getting a lot of market adoption as a savings technology. People get it that the supply of Bitcoin is fixed. It's like digital gold. If currencies are getting devalued, or if you're looking to kind of like save your money, you can go and buy a Bitcoin. We can go and just look at the recent success of all the Bitcoin ETFs. They just got approved earlier this year, and now more than $70 billion of capital is actually sitting in Bitcoin ETFs. And that's the base use case, right? Digital gold, just like people buy gold, they want to have their savings. That's what they're doing with Bitcoin. The thing that is not getting a lot of attention, and the thing that I've sort of been obsessed with, is Bitcoin, the technology. So the mental framework over here is there's Bitcoin, the asset, and then there's Bitcoin, the rails, the technology on which Bitcoin runs. And that technology is actually pretty old. It goes all the way back to when Satoshi Nakamoto actually implemented it. He was a developer, built that technology. And there's a core principles of Bitcoin that Bitcoin doesn't want to change. It's supposed to be simple. It's supposed to be durable. We want people to be able to trust that Bitcoin is going to be exactly the same 10 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. Whereas if you look at the rest of the industry, it's very fast-paced. People are doing tons of experimentation. If you look at Ethereum, if you look at Solana, and all these other networks, they are actually helping developers come in and build all these innovative new applications. That's not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is stable. Bitcoin is the durable asset that's there in the industry. But here's the interesting part. You can start separating the asset from the rails. You can build new rails for Bitcoin without changing the base layer at all. And that's the work that we've been doing. This is Stacks, and then Stacks is sort of like the leading Bitcoin L2, but there are many others as well, and that's a very interesting phenomenon. I'll just give you one example. Bitcoin is around $1.2 trillion in capital, and right now, that capital is not programmable. That capital is not active. That capital is not deployed in any meaningful way. And that's a huge opportunity. Just imagine $1 trillion mostly just sitting there, which developers can come in and start programming, which developers can come in and start doing interesting things with it. Imagine Wall Street, different types of financial products, different types of new innovative things that people can do with money. They're actually currently not doing that with Bitcoin. And that's the unlock that we are excited about. I'll give you one small example. All of this is sort of like very recent in terms of these new layer 2s like Stacks, and Babylon is another one. Babylon recently, this was literally happened 2 days ago, they opened up an opportunity for people to deploy their Bitcoin capital and start earning some yields on it. Within 90 minutes, $1.5 billion of BTC moved into Babylon. 90 minutes, 22,000 BTC. There is an insane amount of demand for this Bitcoin capital that had just been sitting there passively to make it productive capital, to make it programmable money, so people can actually start using it. Bitcoin will actually start flowing on these new rails, and it will be a revolution. Just like the internet, when it started growing, when developers realized that they can come and build any application, any website, anything on top of the internet, and it's complete freedom, it's an open network. That's what we are about to see happen with the largest asset in our industry. Everything else compared to Bitcoin is very small. Even Ethereum, which is the largest application platform, is barely 1/4 of the size of Bitcoin. Everything else is very, very small. So the work that we've been trying to do in some ways goes back to the original work that Satoshi started. Again, whoever Satoshi was or is, didn't want to stop at where they were, right? They wanted to make Bitcoin programmable money. They wanted to create an entire economy around it, where it will be used as money, it will be deployed, people will be using it daily, not just a passive investment. And that is the first use case, but there are thousands of other use cases that are going to get unlocked by the work that Stacks is doing, the work that we are doing, and the other projects. And that is very, very exciting to me because it opens up a completely new potential for Bitcoin. And in some ways, all the other experiments that happen, there's a saying in the Bitcoin community that we will take the best experiments, because you don't want to experiment with Bitcoin too much. We'll take the best experiments, the applications that are actually finding product market fit, and bring it back to the mothership, bring it back to the largest asset class, and actually use it over there. So that is something that is one, if there's one takeaway you can have, if you think that Bitcoin has already been something that has changed the world, it's already getting a lot of traction, we are extremely, extremely early right now. We haven't even started deploying BTC. We haven't even started doing anything interesting with it yet. It has just been passive. So one of the missions that we have at Stacks is how to take Bitcoin to 1 billion people. And that's another reason why you need these new rails, these new layer 2s on top of Bitcoin. Because the Bitcoin base layer cannot scale to 1 billion users. Think of it as like a highway. It jams up, and you need to build the bigger, better highways right next to the base layer. And that is absolutely needed. Just like the internet had to scale to 1 billion users, we need to scale Bitcoin to be able to have 1 billion users or more. So those are the highways that we are building at Stacks. Those are the highways that other people are trying to build around Bitcoin. And that is a super interesting work. And there has been a very interesting cultural aspect of that as well. I've been in the industry for around 11 years at this point. I remember when I started, whenever Bitcoin would cross $100 in price, I would think that it's expensive. I would only buy it when it will drop below 100. And over the last 10 plus years, one thing I've noticed is that Bitcoin sort of lost its touch in the developer community. A lot of the developers, they started experimenting with the smaller networks, the new things, the new shiny things. And they were easier, faster, and you could actually move fast and do interesting things. And just in the last 2 years, thanks to some of the work that we have done, there is a sort of like a Bitcoin renaissance that's happening. A lot of developers are rediscovering Bitcoin through projects like Stacks, where they can now come back and actually build the same type of stuff that they could build on these other newer networks, but this time on the mothership. So there has been a cultural shift as well, where now there are hackathons and developers are getting together and they're sort of like tinkering with Bitcoin again. And for me, who is sort of like witnessed the first sort of like a decline in the developer activity on Bitcoin, and then the rebirth and the revival that just happened the last 2 years, it's actually pretty exciting. With that, thank you so much, and hopefully you can take one lesson that the future of Bitcoin is programmable money and not just a passive asset. Thanks a lot.